Ladies and gentlemen, I have a very special guest today on the Fan of Life show, Fan of Life podcast. And when I got married to my wife, I told my wife that she is marrying the coolest Vietnamese American on planet Earth. And today I'm going to be proven wrong. The gentleman that I am talking with today, he is a special ops veteran, 14 years with the police department. I believe part with SWAT as well. Now he's an entrepreneur. He's building a fitness community, a fitness business, and just inspiring others, including myself. And I'm so honored, humbled, and super glad that he's gracious enough to give me about an hour of his time. And Trung Nguyen, don't make me look too bad today, sir, but welcome to the show.
Rick, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on your show. Wow, you really said a lot about me. I don't think I'm that special, but thank you so much for thinking that.
Well, I would say this. You and I had a small conversation about where I reside. I live in Vegas, and everyone knows Vegas is kind of like the fight capital of the world, right? There's MMA gyms everywhere. And living here 20 years, I have a handful of MMA friends and stuff like that. And I bring this up to say that some of the toughest, coolest, most badass dudes in the world are the most genuine, humblest people. And definitely you resonate with that, or you're a perfect example of that, is what I meant to say. But Trung, tell me about yourself. I know right now you're in Chicago and you have plans of moving to Texas and what have you. But originally, talk to me a little bit about your immigrant story, because I think that's very cool. And like I said, it really resonated with me. If you wouldn't mind sharing some tidbits of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Vietnam. My mother, after the Vietnam War, a lot of our families back there was, uprooted. The communist regime took over and making life hard for my family. We're from the South. So my mom decided, she wanted to build a better life for us, seek a place that has freedom, a place that for us to be able to grow up and prosper at our own accord. So she decided to leave her parents, her brothers and sisters, my dad, and took my two sister and I, and my little brother came later to Vietnam. So we had to go through the entire process. We escaped Vietnam. We got on a boat, and the first place we stayed for over a year was in the Philippines, which was like a refugee camp that we got put into to get processed to go into America. So I spent my year there. I obviously did not know much about it because I was so young. But yeah, from what my mom could tell me, we left really poor. She only had $10 to her name. She didn't know anybody in America. And my half brother, which is on my father's side, they talked. And God rest his soul. He wanted to come over to America first to be like the staple cornerstone for us. So once we get over there, he's already situated. He can help us, but he unfortunately died on a boat when there was approximately about like 70 to 80 people on that boat, and only two people survived. It was like a very elderly woman and a very young girl, and the rest died from starvation and disease, and they all got tossed overboard. So he never made it to America.
So just to paint a little bit of a clearer picture, people can Google images, but when, Trung and myself, we tell our immigrant story, we're talking about we're boat people and we came from a boat. We're not talking about going to your fiberglass boat, speedboat, this is like makeshift rafts that whatever materials builders can come up with, they just snatch together, and the fingers were crossed that we made it to the refugee camp. And your story is a story of millions. So I think it's important for people not to forget that. So Trung, where did you guys end up in the US when you finally got here?
So I guess they asked my mother where would she like to stay, and she's like, I want to experience four seasons. So they gave her a choice of either Chicago or New York. Obviously, California was a choice too, but she didn't want California. She chose Chicago, so we landed in Chicago.
So you've been in Chicago pretty much all your life, as far as your childhood memory, all up to now?
Yes, I've been in Chicago pretty much. I was raised there all my life.
Beautiful. Get a chance to see Jordan play in his heyday at all, or?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the time.
Yeah.
That's when I got into basketball. Everybody loved MJ, and
Yeah.
it was crazy. So
That's the one thing I do envy about Chicago. Outside of that, nothing else because you guys are dang too cold, man. I'm a California boy and I'm now a Vegas boy. Chicago's too cold for me. Um,
yeah,
so through that, you grew up obviously in America, having to acclimate, integrate, learning all these things. Um, how did your mom help you in terms of keeping your heritage and then integrating with America? Some of the conflicts, some of the different cultural aspects of it. What are some of your experiences that you can share?
we weren't. How can I say, placed in the most best place, right? Because we're refugees.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna place us where they want to place us, which is pretty much in a Section 8 home in a really bad neighborhood. And I grew up there. I grew up like in like the ghetto of Chicago, of Uptown, for a majority of my life. We grew up very poor. My mom still wanted that heritage, that Vietnamese heritage. She always spoke Vietnamese to me. Unfortunately, she never taught me how to read and write because right as soon as we landed, from what my sister told me, like a week later, she went to like the closest of Viet Town and whatnot and start looking for work right away so that
Mm,
she could support us and support her family back home. So my sisters were the ones that ended up, kind of raising me. But uh, through the time that she was available, she always, try to talk to me about like Vietnam, speak to me in Vietnamese so I can understand Vietnamese and have that, built into me when I get older to have a second language. And
mm-hmm.
she always would talk about home and, how wonderful it was to live in South Vietnam before the war kicked off. And one day we're going to go back and whatnot. So as much as she could, she instilled that Vietnamese, mom in
Yeah.
me, which again, the discipline.
Oh
Of
yeah.
course, I grew up getting my butt kicked because I deserved it as a young kid, but that taught me a lot. So.
So being raised by mom and then sisters, did you find yourself, having all this boy energy and not knowing what to do with it? Did you get in trouble quite a bit? Anything like that growing up?
Oh yeah, I got in trouble a lot. I wish I could say that I was a perfect, Asian child, straight
Sure.
A's and whatnot, and I'm really like, it's really true. Like where you grow up, the environment you grow up and the people you hang out with really matters,
Mm,
right? It's gonna really affect you. You're gonna really, reflect off the people that you hang out with, and I always was trying to search for that father figure that I never had growing up. So I hung out with the wrong crowd for a little bit. I stayed out late and got in trouble, got in my fair share of trouble, almost failed school. I
mm,
mean, it wasn't all gravy train, straight A's, even though that's what my mom wanted, but it was
right.
kind of hard for them to kind of control me because, again, like you said, I was a guy, I had all this energy and,
Right.
but I decided one day I had to better my life. I came to a crossroad and it was either go left, to hang out with the wrong people, one day be a loser and not have any money and you still live with your mom and whatnot, or go the other route where get back to school, finish with great grades and do something with your life. And at that time, I
Yeah.
think I chose, I wanted that lifestyle. So I left that behind and got almost straight A's back in school and finished almost top of my class. So.
Mm, that's awesome. What age do you think, if you recall, kind of having that inner dialogue with yourself, like, oh shit, I gotta kind of change course because this is not down the road. It doesn't look too promising.
Yeah, I would say about 14, 15 years old
Okay.
was
Yeah.
was about then. I, like I said, hung out with the wrong crowd, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" I
Mm-hmm.
talked to myself, and I figured like this is not what your mom would want. We went to all this trouble to come into America. The last thing she wants is for me to just to be a nobody. And
Right.
I don't
Right.
want to
Right.
be a nobody. I've always had that fire of wanting to do greater things. Watching Bruce Lee growing up,
Sure.
seeing him, Jackie Chan, and all these Asian superstars who are doing so well and whatnot. And I was like, man, I got to do something with my life. So I decided then and there, like, hey, man, get your shit together. So.
Yeah. Beautiful. So obviously, if to generalize, I assume that being Vietnamese culture, your goal was then okay. If I'm gonna get in the right path, the right path usually means high education, become a doctor, lawyer, professional, what have you. You went a totally different route, and thank goodness you did. You went into the military. What was the genesis of that? Like, what got you there?
So that's funny. It's a funny story. I knew that I've never been really a book smart. I mean, I do, if I have to, I'm definitely going to get good grades, but
Mm,
that route of like, working in an office, I knew from the beginning that that's not the lifestyle I want, personally. I don't want to be stuck in an office. I don't want to be doing your typical work. But at that time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I have all this amped up energy, and I was very active in sports and trying to learn martial arts, hapkido,
mm,
and my mom's friend, she lived in Florida, and her son was a lieutenant at the time in the army, and he just graduated Ranger School. So my mom's friends like, hey, my son just graduated this grueling course. I think I'm so proud of him. I think your son will get a kick out of this video. So she sent over to my mom a VHS at the time, video tape
mm.
about Army Ranger School. And my mom gave it to me, and she was like, hey, you should watch this. This is, her best friend's son just graduated. She's a lieutenant. I think this would be cool for you to see what he went through. I was like, yeah, I was bored. I had nothing to do. So I was in the living room. I popped in the VHS, and I saw, U.S. Commandos, Army Ranger School, like,
Yeah.
and I saw that. I was like, holy cow, this is crazy. It showed like how grueling it was. They started like over like 200 men, and they graduated like 40 people. And I
Mm,
was like, dude, this is something, and they were going through the whole documentary of like the 62-day course of Ranger School, and how tough it is, and how the attrition rate's so high, and not
right.
everybody's going to make it. I was like, man, this is something I want to do. So it really started sparking that interest in me. And I'm a firm believer, if you want something, if you're interested in something, you got to go the extra step and do your research, because a lot of people nowadays, they expect things to be handed to them.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to do this. I'm interested in this. What can you do for me? That's not the right question to ask. It's what can I do to get there, right? So,
Right.
at the time, internet wasn't prevalent at the time. We had dial up, AOL. Remember that?
Yeah.
So I went to Barnes and Nobles,
Yeah.
and
Don't
I
give
went to
away
the
our age, by
history.
the way, man. You're giving away our age, man. I apologize. So you
Yeah,
went to Barnes and Nobles.
yeah, and I started looking up Ranger history. I read up on their history, had read up on their lineage, and
Mm,
found that it was like something I wanted to do, and I had it in the back of my head. I was still kind of young at the time, but that was ingrained in my head. Like I want to be a Ranger. I think this is really, really something I want to do. Then 9/11 kicked off, and
mm.
after 9/11 kicked off, I was at my sister's nail shop at the time, and I remember I just finished leaving Hapkido, and I stopped by her nail shop just to see how she's doing, and my mom was there, and everybody was quiet. I was like, "What the heck's going on?" And she had the TV on, and everybody was like staring at the TV, and they saw like the planes hitting
Yeah.
the towers and whatnot, and I was like, "Holy shit!" That right there, I was like, "Dude." I made it in my mind. It's like, you know what? I want to fight for this country. This country's given me a lot, and I think this is the time that I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to get a Ranger contract. So, and I knew my mom wasn't going to be happy with it.
Right.
I knew my mom wasn't, because she wanted me like typical mom, uh, 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 dentist, doctor, pharmacist,
Yeah.
lawyer. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, sure, mom, I'll look into it. But I already knew what I wanted to do, so I snuck away to the recruiter, and I signed the contract. I was like, I came to the
Wow.
recruiter, and I was like, I want to be a Ranger. He's like, he looked at me. I was like, probably a buck 35, soaking wet. He's like, you want to be a what? Like,
Yeah.
come on, kid. But at the time, they were looking for people. Like, yeah, you want to be a Ranger?
Hmm.
Like, sure. So I signed the contract behind her back, and I remember a month before being shipped out to MEPS. MEPS is where you get in process to go into where we were training was basically Fort Benning down in Georgia.
Yeah.
That's where all the one unit training that was going to happen. And I took my girlfriend at the time with my mom to Chinatown. I sat down, and I was like, "So, mom, I got to tell you something." And she looked at me and my girlfriend at the time. She's like, "Don't tell me she's pregnant." I'm like, "No, no, she's not pregnant.
Yeah.
Thank God." She's like, "But I'm going into the military." She's like, "No, you're not." I'm like, it's kind of too late. I already signed the contract.
Wow.
I'm leaving in like a couple of weeks." And she started crying. She was
Sure.
like, typical Asian mom. I was her favorite son. Don't tell my little brother.
Yeah.
Uh, she was like, "Oh my God, you're going to get killed. What are you thinking? Why are you going to go do that?" And, she made not a scene, but she was kind of sad at the time. But I told
Hmm.
her, I told her, "Hey, mom, this is a passion of mine. I felt like God's called me to do this. I need to do this. I can't stay here in Chicago. This is something I definitely need in my life. So I left. I went to the army
Wow.
in August.
I'm gonna go the long way in asking you this question. So I recently read Tim Kennedy's most recent book, right? So if you know, I mean, obviously you know Tim Kennedy is, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And you read his book, you get inside his head, and you go, "Oh, it makes sense. The guy is a psycho slash sociopath in every way that is great.
Yeah.
It takes a certain person to do what you guys do. What do you think that is? Do you think that's something that you're born with? Can you carve that out? Can you cultivate that? Is that something that's just born in you, and you basically just need to find the calling? From your experience, what do you think?
I can't speak for everybody, Rick, but for me personally, it was definitely something that was inside of me for a long time. I had this
Okay.
burning desire to do something greater than whatever it was that to me was typical.
Mm,
And I felt like I wanted to serve other people. I wanted to protect other people. I felt like it was something um, that was deep down inside me that I want to do. I wanted to give back. I wanted to serve. I don't know, maybe call it cliche, my warrior spirit. I don't know what you want to call it,
true.
but it was something, a burning desire that it was deep down inside me that felt right. That this is your path. This is what you're supposed to do, and I just went with it.
That's
Listen to
beautiful,
my heart.
man. Well, like I said, I can't say enough. Thank you for your service and your brothers and sisters in uniform. When you got back, was there a point where, because I'll roll into, the law enforcement next. When you got back, did you have a clear direction then post-war on what you wanted to do, or were you, because I do have a lot of friends that serve, and it's 50-50. Some of them kind of just wonder what the next step is, and some of them have a hard time falling into the next thing, right? Next phase of their life.
Yeah.
A lot went to law enforcement, a lot went to fire, and some kind of just drifted. I mean, where did you find yourself post-war, post-serving, and going back and knowing that you were done with your service? What was next for you?
You know, that had to come into play, and I'll take you back in my teens. We were hanging out in the corner on our in our block, and it was like very bad. But we're kids, we didn't care. We were out there playing
Sure.
basketball, dribbling basketball with my friends, and I remember this patrol car drove by, and this officer got out of the vehicle to come to approach us, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Officer Jones. Here's my card. This is the beat I patrol. If you ever need anything, you give me a call. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I'm here. This is when I'm working." And that really like touched me. I was like, this officer could continue driving and just ignored us, maybe waved at us, and but he took the time out to step out the car to talk to us, to be like, "Hey, this is a bad neighborhood. I'm here for you guys. Don't start talking about like, hey, don't get influenced by gangs around this neighborhood. You
yeah,
guys got a bright future. You guys stick it out." And that really touched me. I was like, this man did not have to do that,
right.
and I was like, wow, that's cool. He's doing that. And I've seen these officers chase these criminals up and down the street on my block all the time. I'm like, man, this is cool. What a freaking cool job, right? So
Yeah.
all that wrapped together, and I kind of had that in the back of my head, like that is something I think I want to do one day. Is become a police officer too. And I kind of knew that when I was pretty young. I remember looking at in grade school, my teacher had this book, this elementary book, and in there, you flip the pages, cartoons, and they showed like firefighters, police officers, and something. I'm always attracted to that uniform, being a police officer and understanding what they did.
Mm,
So that played a huge role in my decision, and that's why was the other. So there was multiple decisions why I left the military and that did not continue my career, but one of it was I wanted to become a police officer. So um, when I left, I tried to do the college thing, right?
right.
I did about a year, and I was like, this is not for me.
Yeah.
It's like these kids, like they're in their bubble. I just came back from like multiple tours I did in Iraq, and I saw
Yeah.
death. I saw shit. I lost friends. It's just
Hmm.
at that time I was like 24 at the time, and this went down, and it wasn't for me. I tried, I got 60 college credits, and I was like, all right, I think I'm good. I think
Mm,
I'm good. And I'm not gonna lie to you. When I got back, it wasn't all sunshines and rainbows because being a
Sure.
veteran, you deal with post trauma, right? And
Of
I
course.
dealt with my post trauma differently. I lost, like I said, I lost some friends in combat, and it really affected me. And I spent the first year trying to go to college and stayed home, like stayed home, drank alcohol, kept very secluded because I was battling my own inner demons. And
Hmm.
then again, I just came to another crossroad. I was like, God played a big part of that in my life, and He helped me. And I was like, hey, God, please help me and whatnot. And I did a lot of praying and whatnot, and I was able to get out of that dark um, time in my life where I thought I was alone, no one could understand me.
Mm.
And I decided, you know what, I came all this way. I've done all this to this point. I've survived, you know, going overseas, doing what I did. I'm not gonna fucking, end my life or do anything that's gonna like make all this effort go to waste.
Mm.
And I snapped out of it, and that's why at the time I was doing jujitsu, and I remember rolling with this detective. I was like, I'm really interested in becoming a police officer. He's like, oh yeah, here. He's like, I'll print out a couple of departments that are really good, and you should apply. With your background, you're going to get hired. So he printed me a couple of applications, and I applied, and this one department picked me up right away. I think there's like 300 candidates. It's like a 60-man police department. It was very highly sought after, and they hired
Mm.
me and this other guy. So we got picked up, and I worked there, Park Ridge, for a couple of years.
And that is
And
what, like outskirts of Chicago?
yeah, outskirts Chicago, close to O'Hare Airport, I would say.
Yeah.
So I worked there. It was a nice area. Don't get me wrong. It was like rich neighborhood.
Yeah.
Everything was to me. I was a rookie cop, right? I graduated the police academy, crushed it, top physical fitness, top leadership award, whatnot. Went there. I wanted to be the police. I wanted to run and gun. I wanted to like catch bad guys, but it
Right.
was a rich neighborhood. There was really no crime. I mean,
Yeah.
the most I would get was like DUIs, people with suspended license, maybe rich kids,
Yeah.
pull them over and they have like heroin in their car that they got from the south and west side. So I was like, all
Mm.
right, I can't start my career like this. You know what I mean? This is way too easy. I'm super bored. I want to I want to do stuff. I want to join a SWAT team. And at that time on that department, there's only one position for a SWAT because it's like a regional SWAT team. And I was like, I'm never going to get this position. This guy's just got here. He's going to be here forever. So
Yeah.
I was like, where can I go to get challenged? Where can I go to really be the police? And funny thing is that movie SWAT with
Yeah.
Colin Farrell
Yeah.
played a big role. I watched it in the theaters with my niece when it came out. I was like, your uncle's going to be a SWAT officer. And so that kind of came into play. I was like, dude, I'm going to go to LA. I'm going to become an LAPD officer. So I applied for LA, and at the time Chicago was um, testing too. So I test for both places at the same time. But LA hired me like 6 months right away.
Oh.
So yeah, I went over there. Didn't know anybody. Literally moved myself all the way to California. Lived in the OC around Fountain Valley, and went to another police academy. Went to their academy. Graduated top honors again, top physical fitness, one top officer of the class and whatnot. And I did a couple of years out there, and man, the being the police, wanting to run and gun, I got, I got my fair share of that. That
In
was the
Southern
place
California,
to,
huh? Yeah.
yes, to be a cop at the time. It was around like 2011,
Okay.
and I did that. And my mom got old and she needed help, and I tried to tell her, hey, you can come over here to California, but she didn't know anybody here, and she didn't want to
Mm.
drive on the freeway. So she's like, no, I can't. I got to stay here. So I decided I had to move back home. So I left. I came back to Chicago.
So you went back to Chicago then. You decided to go back to Chicago because you wanted to be with your mom and help her as she was getting older.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
So
did.
so then did
And
you go into the force there, or as far as occupation or police officer work, law enforcement, what how did that transpire? How does the transition go?
so with Chicago at the time was I passed their test, but I got put into a lottery system. And
Uh
and I guess their whole thing was like there's so many candidates that it took like usually around 2 years for them to call you. So it kind of worked out. like once I got out of LA for me to come back to Chicago, I was able to. They called me about like 4 months later, and like, hey, uh, your numbers up. You want this job? I said, yeah. So I went through another police academy, and this is like my third police academy I went to. And it's crazy because I always bring this up, and I always tell people is like, sometimes when you're in the career field for a while and you've done it, work the streets, do whatever you do, like, you actually were in the field and doing that profession. People tend to get jaded,
Mm-hmm.
but going into the third police academy, I could have been that type of officer. Like, I've been a police officer for 4 years already, man. But I just came from LAPD. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, and just kind of like blew it off. But that's not the way I operate. That's not the way my mindset is. And I told myself, like, no matter, even if you are a seasoned officer, even if you're somebody who's been out there, you will put your best foot forward in anything you do, even if it's in the academy. And I did. And I played it, and I act like it was my first police academy. And
Wow.
I gave 110%, like I would if it was my first one. I didn't want to come in there like, oh, I'm a police officer. What are you going to teach me? I didn't want to come with that attitude, because that's
Sure.
the wrong attitude to have in life. So yeah, again, I graduated with top honors through their police academy, and I worked third district. I worked 10th district in the real shitty areas for a while before I was given the opportunity to try out for SWAT. So
Mm. What I heard in that was kind of going back to what you were saying earlier, where you caution the new generation of that feeling of entitlement. If there's anyone that could have legitimately or justifiably feel entitled by the third round of police academy or going through the academy, it would be you, but you didn't. You humbled yourself to say, hey, this is the process. I'm gonna do it, 100%, and this is what I want to do. So this is the price I'll pay. And I wish that message is spoken out loud a little bit more, because I think, what I see, especially in media and what have you, everything is so quick and everyone chases the quick and the easy. And I think long term as a society, that doesn't bode well for us. You know what I mean? Um, like I said, I think actually you answered this. You said you were always built this way. So for people that aren't quote unquote built that way, how do you think one can increase their ability to kind of withstand hard times or challenging times?
Rick, that's a great question, and it's something that has to come with discipline, right?
Okay.
I I think that's the key to success in life, and whatever
Mm.
you want to do is discipline, not motivation. Motivation is a fleeting emotion.
Yes.
Motivation is sadness, happiness. It comes and goes. And when I hear people like, "Oh, I'm going to wait till I'm motivated," oh, you motivate me, and like, you know what? I'm glad I do, but do not rely on motivation.
Mm.
When I work out, I don't listen to music. I listen to zero music. Like, when I work out, it's complete silence, because I like suffering in silence. That to me is like, it's almost meditation at that point for me, because I don't rely on outside sources for motivation, i.e., music, listen to Eminem or whatever to get me going. I get
Mm.
myself going. I'm
Mm.
the one, right? Because I got that from the military. It's like, when we're out there in the woods, and we've been rucking for about like 12 miles. I got the 65-pound rucksack. Then I have to get back into base, and we're going through selection. I'm holding this. They're making us hold this rucksack over our head, and I'm like pouring sweat, dehydrated, lack of sleep, lack of food. They have a bonfire going on right there in the background. Like, oh, you can quit anytime. Go
Yeah.
hang out on the bonfire, have a hot dog, join. And people start dropping like flies.
Yeah.
And there wasn't Rocky. They weren't blasting Rocky or any type of motivational music. Like, all right, guys, go ahead here. We're gonna play some ACDC or whatever to get you going, right?
Yeah.
It's just suffering in silence, and you just got to find that discipline. So coming back to this is, discipline is what's going to get you where you want to go in
Mm.
anything you want to do in life. You can't rely on, oh, I got to feel this certain way to study for this certain test. I got to feel this certain way to try to earn this position, right? I always tell people, you got to earn your fucking place, earn your place, earn your position, earn
Mm.
it every single day. And that's what was taught for me in the military too. When I was in Ranger Regiment, and our platoon sergeant would stand in front of us, and he would take off his tambourine. He was like, "Men, you earn this every fucking day that you're here. You're not entitled. Don't ever think you made it. Don't ever think that you've arrived. You will never arrive. The day that you think you do is the day that you're going to leave this regiment, and you have to
Mm,
earn your place every day. So that stuck with me, and the discipline stuck with me, and then I realized like the key to success is discipline.
yeah,
Whatever you want to do in life, you want greater grades, fucking put in the work.
yeah.
Don't play video games. Go and really study. You want to be the best athlete. Go work after hours when your buddies out there hanging out together, having drinks, going out late. If you want certain things, you want success, you want all that, you have to put in the work. You have to have the discipline. So
No, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I think, the reality of life, reality of achieving what you want, success, entrepreneurship, anything, fitness, is that it comes down to your level of success is your last level of success, meaning that whatever you achieved yesterday was yesterday, brother.
yep,
Now we go again. And then you rinse and
yep,
repeat. And I think that's the missing component where I think people drop off because, nowadays, I think, you're an entrepreneur, this. It's probably the easiest. Let me rephrase that. You probably have the most tools at your fingertips to expand your business if you're an entrepreneur. So there's a lot more tools. It's more simplified to become successful. The challenge is I see a lot of people get success and you check back with them a year later and they're at zero or less again. And I think it comes back to what you were saying is that discipline to continue to do it the next day, the following day. And I even add this where I think it's more challenging once you get success. So you really have to double up your discipline and your level of focus. So that's beautifully stated, man. I appreciate you bring that up because I think people sugarcoat what it takes to become successful, and there's no ways around it. It has to be that. It has to be that discipline. Motivation is temporary. I like that as well too. So for you, what I heard from when you were saying, I don't listen to music when I work out is you even now you embrace and you run into the suffering. You want that suffering to be there and to be present, right?
absolutely. Um, through suffering, I grow.
Yeah.
And I've learned that us as humans, um, if you want success, if you want to be great, if you want to be faster, stronger, you have to put yourself in the most uncomfortable
Mm,
position possible, right? That's when you're going to be able to be the best you can because we are not as far from our ancestors. And I bring this up a lot. And it's like, let's take physical training, for example, right?
mm,
If you don't train, you eat like shit, you're going to look like the couch you sit on, right? A
sure.
fat piece of shit, because your body, it's a fight or flight mentality. Your body's like, oh, I'm not in danger. Uh, I'm sitting here, I'm relaxed, I'm getting all these endorphins. So what is it going to do? It's just going to just your body's just going to react to what you put it through, and that's why like older people and whatnot who don't work out, they're when they fall, they break a hip easily. Their bones brittle. Their
Yeah.
bones get brittle because your body is going to react to what you put it through. So when you give it tough physical training, you put it through like rigorous training all the time. It's thinking it's in danger. It's thinking it's getting killed. So what is it going to do? It's going to get stronger. Your bones are going to get stronger. It's going to react to the way you put it in. It's like if you look at, for example, animals, wagyu meat. Why is it so delicious? Because it's nice and fatty. It's soft because the lifestyle that cow went through was easy.
Hmm.
Classical music, get fed beer, get
Yeah.
massages,
Yeah.
and you compare it. And then you compare it to venison.
Mm,
If you look at their meat, they rarely have any fat in it, right? It's all like pretty much like muscle. Why is that? It's because it's always endangered by a predator that's trying to eat it. So how is it going to battle that? It's going to get stronger because it needs to run faster. It needs
correct.
to have that muscle. So it's the same concept when you think about it with us as humans. Like, and it applies to the intellectual realm too. Your mind is going to only be as challenged as you put it through. The
Right.
day that you decided to stop and just play video games or watch these fucking shows on Netflix all day,
Mm,
I mean, then that's the level of growth that you're going to stay at, right? But if you could
right.
challenge you, if you continually challenge yourself, as in listen to podcasts, personal development, go out and read, do things that are going to like make you think, make you better, then you're going to to adapt to that type of that higher thinking. It's the same thing with hanging with people. I always try to hang out with people who are better than me. I always try to hang out with people who are smarter than me, faster than me, and better than me, because I understand, like, I'm comfortable as a person I am. I know I don't know everything. I don't want to know everything. The day I
Hmm.
know everything is shit. Then I might as well, then
Yeah.
you're pretty much you're dead, right? So
Right.
for you to be able to get to that next level, you always got to push your boundaries. You always got to be outside of your comfort zone.
Yep.
As cliche as it says, the comfort zone is where dreams go to die. The comfort
Yeah.
zone is where all that happens. So
Yeah, it's true. And you take weight training, physical fitness as a metaphor for life, is that the only way for you to get your body better, stronger, faster is you put it through stress. You literally break it down, for people that are not, too fluent in weightlifting, for example, when you're lifting heavy weights, you're not building muscle, you're actually breaking your body, your muscle fibers down. The recuperation is when your body goes, oh crap, if this is my life now, I better get stronger. And
yep.
that's a perfect metaphor for everything that you go through in life. That's great, man. So then with your multiple careers, you're on career number 2 now. You're wrapping up, or you have wrapped up, being in law enforcement, I think 14 years roughly. And that now you're venturing into entrepreneurship. You've built, a brand, We Go Home, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm still in law enforcement.
Oh,
I
are you?
retire
Okay.
in February. So February is my last day. February 20th is my retirement date. So getting there, almost there.
Okay. So talk to me about the community you're building, because in my research, also you have the supplement company, you have the apparel, but it's more than just products. It feels like a community. So you want to touch on that a little bit, and kind of what was your vision on that?
Yeah. So We Go Home was something was inside me ever since I joined the military, because when we always have briefings before we go out on missions, our team leaders and everything, like, hey, we're going out, we're going to capture this high value target and blah blah blah, but
Mm,
we're going to be sure that we do our jobs, and we make it home safe. That message resonated throughout my military career into my law enforcement career, and why I wanted to bring We Go Home to fruition and bring it to life was, when you train, sweat, bleed with your brothers and sisters to your left and right, they become your family, right?
mm,
I met their kids, I met their wives, I met their girlfriends, I met their husbands, I met you get invited to dinners, you know them, you're pretty much their second family. And it's just vice versa. You sit in a squad car with them all the time, and you build that bond. So We Go Home was made for the people who did not make it home. And I
mm.
wanted to instill in the fire community, the military community, the law enforcement community, the first responder community, that when you raise your right hand, you can no longer be selfish. It's not about you anymore. It's about those to your left and right. So you got to do everything possible, not for yourself, but for your brothers and sisters, so they can come home to their friends and family, so they can enjoy their lives and their livelihoods and whatnot. So that's where We Go Home was came to life, and that's the message I wanted to push to the community. Is like, hey man, our job's dangerous. It's not a 9 to 5. You don't
Right.
just go clock in and clock out and know your schedule. One minute you're sitting there having coffee, the next minute you're going to an active shooter, the next minute you're going to this fire, the next minute you're going on this high value target hit that you
Yeah.
might not come back from. So what are you going to do to prepare for that? Are you going to be a lazy piece of shit and think that your uniform is going to be suffice, or are you going to be that professional that the citizens are relying on, and your brothers and sisters are relying on, that to be physically, mentally, fit, so that you're able to do your job to the best of your abilities, and not leave it to hope that you might come back, that you're
Yeah.
going to be like, hey, I've trained to the best of my abilities. If God's called me for my time to die, that's my time to die. But I know I am ready for whatever the next call is going to happen. And
Mm.
that's what we wanted to instill in the community. So yes, our brand, if you want to call it, it's bigger than just selling supplements. It's bigger than just selling apparel. We're pushing the mindset to make everybody better.
We'll talk a little bit about the supplements and the company a little bit more, but I want to stick to what you were saying, because you talked about the devotion you guys have as a community to your basically your team, right? Your fellow, brothers and sisters in uniform. And I think that's so important that possibly we're lacking all as well too in society. Not everyone's going to put on a uniform. Not everyone's going to go to war. No one's going to serve the community. But I read somewhere that, even though social media has connected us way more than we can ever imagine, I think more people are living lonelier lives than ever before. You know, Talk to me about how important it is to go out there and find your tribe.
Yeah, I think finding your community, finding your tribe is huge. And again, it falls back to our ancestors. We're people who
Mm,
are social animals, social people, right? We're not made to be alone. We're made to find. That's why we survived to this point because
yeah.
of a community, of a tribe. So now that we don't have that, we don't have to go out there and have hunters and gatherers and all that anymore. Everything's like, instantaneously. If I want to go to the grocery store, it's there, right? If I want to
Right.
buy alcohol, I can press it on my phone. So that's already been taken out. There's no more really that need of that type of tribe. So now it's a different type. Like you
Mm,
said, social media. People want to be feel connected. People want to be like they belong to a part of a community that understands them, that pushes them to be better, and that was the whole purpose of what we're doing is
yeah.
to build that community, to build like, hey, you guys are not alone, and once I get this headquarters up and running, it's like, hey, I'm any law enforcement, fire, military supporters who want to come train with us, you're more than welcome to. We're going to be putting on
Beautiful.
personal development courses and stuff like that. So we're going to bring the community together and build that tight knit group. Like, hey, we understand, right? You guys, we understand your lifestyle, we understand your job, we understand what you're going through, and you guys are not alone. We can come together. We're going to be better, and we're going to give back and help out. So,
The headquarters you speak of, that's the one that you're building in Texas or will be building in Texas? What
yeah,
part of Texas?
I'm thinking Katy, Texas is where
Okay.
I'm planning on being. So
Where is that
it's about like
in
it's about 45 minutes outside of Houston.
Houston? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Look forward to that. And when are you thinking of touching down or finally doing your relocation?
So I already talked to some of the realtor right now on that market, and
Mm.
I'm thinking March.
Oh,
Like
it's
I'm
gonna,
literally retiring, moving all my stuff, going down there, and
yeah,
hitting the road running. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not good. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm not gonna let no. My foot's gonna stay on the gas.
There, I'm super excited for you. I can't wait to see the progression as you go. We're gonna wrap up in a bit because I know you're super busy. I want to hit a couple of things before we go. So,
Sure.
give the audience a day in the life, an average day in the life of Trung Nguyen.
Uh, Well, right now as a police officer, I would get up, and depending on what the day is, I would get up early, take my greens, stretch, do a lot of mobility work.
Mm,
After that, depending if I'm working the day shift or the evening shift, I'm working the morning shift. We go straight to work. We go to roll call, find out what's going on with the city, then hit the gym, work out, get my workout in, build myself physically. Then after that, we would meet with the team who would train. Hone their skill set, either be it firearms, be it tactics, be it anything, so that we can be better as SWAT officers. Then after that, we, depending on what we have to do, warrants. If there's a SWAT job, if there's a special event that's going on that requires our assistance, we will handle that and take care of that. So that's pretty much what I'm doing now. But as entrepreneur side, literally every day is work for me.
yeah.
It's like when I get up, I think, and I was going to tell you, like, funny, like going through everything that I went through, everything is so regimented. You
Mm-hmm.
know, being in the army, being in the law enforcement side, I knew kind of what my daily task was. Like I was giving, like, okay, you're gonna 06, roll call, PT, go on a ruck march, go do this, go do that. Now being an entrepreneur, there's none of that anymore.
Right.
Now it's literally like you get thrown into the deep end, right? It's like,
Yep.
to me, it's even more difficult because it's on me
Mm,
to be on it, right? And
right.
I have to stay on it. And for me, being an entrepreneur, it's literally finding the next best apparel, finding the next best ingredients to make better supplements, talking to my human performance coach on how we can improve our workout programs for the community, so that when we throw it on the app, they're going to benefit from it. Finding new venues that we're going to be doing some shoots at. Talking to my manufacturers. I mean, to me, if you call yourself an entrepreneur, then it's a nonstop
Yep.
24/7, 365 days a year. I don't have time to sit there and watch Netflix.
Right.
If I do, then I'm not truly an entrepreneur. I'm like listening to podcasts. I'm doing things to better myself so that I continue to grow this organization, because I see the bigger picture in it, and I see what we can do when we get to a certain level to give back to the community and help them and help their families, because we want to start a We Go Home Foundation eventually, which is going to help pay for the the widows' mortgages, paying for the the injured officers, firefighters, medical bills, putting their kids through college and stuff like that. So I mean, everything has a game plan. I see it. I see where it's going to be in 3 to 5 years, and I just got to work at it every single day. Like you said, there's no time off. I don't feel like I've made it. I've nowhere near made it. I feel like I'm just starting. Like I feel like day one, and it's just it's crazy. It's sometimes I sit there, I'm like, is this the right path? This is so hard. Like there are days when I get no sales. I'm like, is this the right path? And this is something I have to do. But I have to understand the bigger picture of this game as an entrepreneur, that it's a long road. It's not instantaneous like a lot of these social media sites would put out gurus like make $1 million in 3 months if you follow my blah 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 blah, right? It's like it's a grind, and you got to grind at it every single day. And one of my favorite mentors I listen to is Andy Frisella.
Oh yeah,
and
sure.
He talks about imagine this big fucking tree, right? And you got up an axe, right? And this tree is ginormous. I mean, how are you going to take down this tree? You hit it at the same spot every single day, no matter what, right? If you feel it or not, you whack it at the same spot every single day, and eventually it's going to fall down.
Obviously, it's like this, right? That's with life, but more so, even you add entrepreneurship with it. What keeps you grounded? What keeps you going? I know you have the discipline. Are you a meditation guy? Are you a faith guy? What keeps you going through the times when that voice in your head start going, just like you just mentioned, that says, "Am I crazy for doing this?" Well, what is it for you?
Honestly, I believe in God. I'm a Christian. Even though I was raised a Buddhist, I found God when I was 18 years old. He saved my life. I wouldn't, God plays a big part, obviously, think to him. But I think what it has to do with, like you said, discipline again. It comes down to discipline, right? I'm a big believer, and I tell my team, I'm like, hey man, don't concentrate on the shoreline. You got to look at the horizon, right? You got to know that it's not if, but when. That you got to put your best foot forward. And I tell myself, the days I want to quit, somebody else is quitting. So that gives me energy and fire to keep going. Like I'm not going to quit.
Dude,
someone else right now in my shoes is quitting.
Yep.
And you know what? I'm not going to quit.
Someone's ringing the bell in.
Somebody's ringing the freaking bell, and it's not going to be me.
That's beautiful.
Rain, storm, shine, whatever. I'm going to fucking keep going. So,
my friend, I'm going to ask you one last thing before I leave you. You have the megaphone to the world. If you were king for the day, what would you tell society right now? It could be one thing, a couple of things. What is your philosophy in life that you want to leave the audience with? And by the way, we're going to do this again. I would love to continue to follow you in your journey and continue to not only be inspired, motivated, but build the discipline that we can all achieve success together. But you got the megaphone to the world, my friend. What's your message?
Live fully. Not a lot of people live. People go to life just to go through life, 9 to 5, just getting by. Just no one's really living. We have a very short time on this earth. 39 years already passed. Days are going by quicker and quicker. And when I've seen death firsthand and all that, you start to appreciate life, and you start to appreciate just how wonderful it is if you really live it, right? Not a lot of people will live a life. Not a lot of people will conquer themselves. Like Sun Tzu said, like you can win 1,000 battles, but if you don't conquer yourself, you lose.
Yes.
So, the best thing to do, my message to you guys, is conquer from within. Everything that you guys are looking for is not from the outside, it's from within. Conquer yourself and you've won, right? And that's the most important thing. You conquer yourself. You conquer your demons. You conquer the fucking nose. I don't want to do it. Tomorrow or no, in a little bit. Fuck that. When you have that fucking inner bitch voice talking to you, you shut it off right away. You conquer your inner demons, and you're going to be successful in life. So that I would say that's the one thing my little message to the world is conquer yourself, and
Yeah.
then you've won life, man. Literally.
There's nothing else I can add with that. I just want to leave you with this, man. Thank you so much for your time. I know, like, your day is full. So I'm very humbled that you spent a little bit of time with me. Love to continue to build this relationship, keep you in, the front view and support you any way you can. Tell the people how they can find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me on my social media platform. It's my first name, Trung, Trung, B as in boy, and my last name, Nguyen, Nguyen. Or you can find me on my page. Also, we go home, literally, on Instagram. So,
Check them out, everybody. There are people that pretend to be savages in a cool way, and then there are real guys like Trung. I respect you, man. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your time today. Next time in Vegas, hit me up. There's a tomahawk steak with your name on it. All right.
oh, Rick, absolutely. Let's do this.
Pleasure, brother.